Hello, lovelies. Let's look at valence electrons and reactivity in today's lesson. So atoms interact with each other to form new compounds and molecules, and they interact with each other by sharing, taking, or losing their valence electrons. Remember, valence electrons are those electrons in the outermost energy level, the ones farthest from the nucleus. So when they interact, chemical reactions take place, and like I mentioned, new substances are formed. Like, for example, if a sodium atom and two chlorine atoms interact, it creates something that we all know as salt. Now, how easily atoms interact with each other and undergo that chemical reaction is called reactivity. And the number of valence electrons determine how reactive an element is. This is because atoms want their outermost energy level to be completely full. So no matter if their outermost level can take up to 2 or 8 or 18, it wants to be full. It wants that outermost energy level to be full, and so it will react with other atoms in order to make it full. When atoms are missing valence electrons, this is when they are reactive. And we call reactive atoms unstable. If I look at this model of the atom, I know that this level can take up to 8 electrons, so I know it's missing one. And so that's going to cause it to react with other atoms in order to fill that missing spot and be full. When atoms are not missing valence electrons, they are not reactive because they're completely full and they don't need any electrons. We call these atoms stable. Now you try it. Count the valence electrons in this model. Is this atom reactive? There are no missing valence electrons here, so this atom is not reactive. The third energy level can take up to 8 for this atom. Or this is the second energy level, my apologies. Second energy level here can take up to 8, and there are 8 valence electrons here, so it doesn't need to react. Let's try it again. Count the valence electrons in this model. Is this atom reactive? There are missing valence electrons in this one, so this atom will react with other elements because it has 5 valence electrons. It can take up to 8 in this energy level, so it's missing 3, which means it wants it to be full. It's missing 3, so it will react to get those spots filled. Now, generally speaking, the more valence electrons an atom has, the less reactive it is, and the less valence electrons an atom has, the more reactive it is. There are some exceptions, though, as there are to everything. So our first thing that we're going to look at is that atoms with only 1 valence electron or with 7 valence electrons are the most reactive. So atoms with 1 valence or 7 valence electrons are most reactive. Atoms with 2 valence electrons are highly reactive. So they're not the most reactive elements on the periodic table, but they react fairly violently still. Atoms with between 3 and 6 valence electrons are mostly stable. They will react, but there won't be very explosive, big reactions. And then atoms with 8 valence electrons are not reactive. The only other case where an atom with less than 8 valence electrons would not be reactive is if it's helium, because it only has 2 electrons to begin with. Now, valence electrons actually tie to your group number as well, so I can tie reactivity to a group number too. If I know that atoms with 1 valence electron and 7 valence electrons are the most reactive, then I'm looking at group 1 and group 17 elements. So elements in group 1 and group 17 are the most reactive elements on your periodic table. Same thing with group 2 elements. Group 2 elements have 2 valence electrons, which means they are highly reactive elements. Groups 13 through 16 have between 3 and 6 valence electrons, so they're mostly stable. Your elements here will react, but they won't react very violently. And then group 18 elements are where I have full valence shells, and all of these elements have all the valence electrons that they need, and so they are stable. That's the gist of reactivity and valence electrons. If you have any questions, make sure you go back and rewatch the video or stop and ask your teacher. Have a great night, guys.